So welcome everyone to the first talk of this 4-day virtual retreat at Mountain Cloud, the last 4 days of February 2021. Virtual in that we're gathering in our Zoom Zendo, a shared platform that links us across time zones and geographical distance. A network that reveals how linked we truly are. No near, no far. Virtual also carries something of the sense of that famous verse near the end of the Diamond Sutra. All things are under the law of change. They are a dream, a phantom, a bubble, a shadow. They are like a flash of lightning. You should see things like this. A dream, a phantom, a bubble, a shadow. One transparency, fleeting, insubstantial, already gone. See things like this. That is your I. Here's another translation of that verse. There are many. This one is by Red Pine. He adapts the Sanskrit to English rhymes and rhythms. So you should view this fleeting world, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. A flash of lightning. Dogen calls our human life a spark from a flint stone. Who would waste it? He addresses this imperative to us. This is Dogen. You have gained the pivotal opportunity of human form. Do not let your time pass in vain. You are maintaining the essential function of the Buddha way. Would you take meaningless delight in the spark from a flint stone? Form and substance are like dewdrops on the grass, destiny like the dart of lightning, vanishing in an instant, disappearing in a flash. How clear the echo of the Diamond Sutra. We are not wasting the chance of this transient, ever-changing experience. We are here practicing, embodying the invitation that comes from being alive, that comes from our own human heart. Today, as a way of pointing to the true human heart and to the heart of this practice, I'd like to turn to another of the origin stories of Zen. This is the story of Huineng, the 6th Chinese ancestor, whose awakening was sparked on hearing a line from the Diamond Sutra. This is a familiar story to many, but there's a power in it that cannot be contained by anything like before or after. Flash of lightning, spark from a flint stone. So this is case 23 in the Gateless Gate or Mumonkan, entitled Think Neither Good Nor Evil. I'll read the case. The sixth patriarch, that's Huineng, was once pursued by the monk Miao as far as Mount Diyu. The ancestor, Huineng, seeing Miao coming, laid the robe and bowl on a rock and said, "This robe represents the faith. How can it be competed for by force? I will allow you to take it away." Miao tried to lift it up, but it was as immovable as a mountain. Terrified and trembling with awe, he said, "I came for the Dharma, not the robe. I beg you, lay brother, please reveal it to me." The ancestor said, "At the very moment when you were chasing after me, without thinking good or evil, what was the primal face of monk Miao?" In that instant, Miao suddenly attained deep realization, and his whole body was covered with sweat. In tears, he bowed and said, "Besides the secret words and secret meaning you have just revealed to me, is there anything else deeper yet?" The ancestor said, "What I have now preached to you is no secret at all. If you reflect on your own true face, the secret will be found within yourself." Miao said, "Though I have been at Obai with the other monks, I have never realized what my true self is. Now, thanks to your instruction, I know it is like one who drinks water and knows for oneself whether it is cold or warm. Now you, lay brother, are my master." The ancestor said, "If that is the way you feel, let us both have Obai for our master. Be mindful and hold fast to what you have realized." Huineng, or Eno in Japanese, he lived from 638 to 713. This is an axial figure in Chinese Chan, what became Zen. When you look at the lineage chart, Bodhidharma is at the top with a straight line down through the next 5 ancestors. And then after Huineng, the tree branches out into the 5 main schools of Chinese Zen Buddhism. Of those 5 schools, 2 still remain, Soto and Rinzai, and are alive in the United States now, throughout the West. As we know, Sambo Zen is this combination, this weaving together of those 2 schools. I suddenly remember Dosho Port talking so clearly, so invitingly about these 2 schools and the kind of sectarianism that exists. And, there's just one world. It's all pointing to this. Dosho Port said we should get over it. So Huineng, the platform sutra is attributed to him. It's apparently a lecture given by Huineng that was recorded by one of his primary disciples. And it tells Huineng's story, that sutra, and also advocates for the experience of sudden awakening. understandably so, given his experience. According to that sutra, Huineng, or Eno's father, died when he was 3. So completely impoverished. He and his mother survived by gathering firewood in the forest and then going around in the village and selling it door to door. One day in a village, Eno heard a single line from the Diamond Sutra and was instantly awakened. Dwelling nowhere, mind comes forth. If you heard Maria Habito, she gave a talk a couple weeks ago, and towards the end really conveyed the heart of this. She was saying, abiding nowhere, mind comes forth. Dwelling nowhere, mind comes forth. Just that line. Eno knocked on the door where the chanting was and asked, "What is that sound?" A householder said, "It's a line from the Diamond Sutra." "Where did you learn it?" "There's a monastery in Obai where the great Zen Master Hongren is abbot." So this very young man-child determines to go there to ask for teaching. When he finally finds the courage to tell his mother, he cannot abandon his mother. She encourages him. So according to one story, they find a boot with some coins enough for ample support. Or another account says the neighbors stepped in to care for her. At any rate, Eno finally leaves and makes the journey, hundreds of kilometers, to the north. And there he presents himself to the abbot of the monastery. The abbot asks, "Where have you come from?" That alone is a checking question. "From Huineng, south of the mountain," Eno answers. "What did you come for?" the abbot asks. "To become Buddha." In other words, to awaken. The abbot responds, "You cannot become Buddha because the people of Huineng have no Buddha nature." We can read that in different ways, but this place down to the south is not highly regarded. The people of Huineng have no Buddha nature. These are checking questions with the depth of a koan. But Eno is unshaken. He says, though there is south and north for humans, how can there be a south and north for Buddha nature? The abbot recognizes, some promise in that response. Enough, Yamada Kong comments that this abbot purposely speaks roughly to the young Eno. Go down and work in the rice cleaning shed. Without a word, Eno does what he's told. He continued that work for 8 months. At that point, it comes time for the fifth Chinese ancestor, for Huineng, to choose a successor. He knows he's nearing death. He's got to decide who will inherit his Dharma. So Huineng addresses his monks, some 700 of them, and invites anyone with confidence to come to his room and present their understanding. Typically, this would mean presenting the abbot with a verse. So as the story goes, the senior monk, who's a fine scholar, feels certain he should inherit the robe and bowl. And he does compose a verse, but he doesn't have the confidence to present it directly to the abbot. One account says he went to the abbot's door 10 times, but couldn't bring himself to knock. So instead, this senior monk writes his poem on a piece of paper and hangs it on the wall in a hallway where the abbot often passes. That poem has been handed down for generations, about 1,300 years. Here's one translation. The body is the Bodhi tree. The mind is like the stand of a clear mirror. Wipe it clean from time to time. Never let dust and rubbish stick to it. Or in another translation, the body is the tree of wisdom. The mind but a bright mirror. At all times diligently polish it to remain untainted by dust. It's said that the abbot appreciated the verse, even remarking out loud, "This verse is splendid. Anyone who conducts his practice according to this verse will make no mistake." Ano, still in the rice shed, hears about this. He knows the verse doesn't express awakening, this real awake world. He's illiterate. So he asks someone, probably one of the monks, to help him write down a verse. Some accounts say that there's the head monk's verse and then Ano's verse in this other hand on the wall next to it. And some say Ano just asked the scribe to cross out the characters and rewrite it a little. So here's his verse. Bodhi is not a tree. That is, awakened body is not a tree. The clear mirror has no stand. From the beginning, there's not a single thing. In what place can there be dust? Or again, this other translation, the tree of wisdom fundamentally does not exist, nor is there a stand for the mirror. Originally, there is not a single thing. So where would dust alight? I hear this speaking to us as we sit, polishing, worrying the dust. The abbot Huineng sees the poems and knows what to do. At midnight, he goes to the rice shed. This encounter is chapter 35 in the transmission of light, the eye-to-eye transmission. Excuse me. There, Huineng, this abbot, stands at the door to the rice shed and asks, "Is the rice white yet?" Eno responds, "It's white, but hasn't yet been sifted." Huineng strikes the mortar 3 times. Eno sifts the rice 3 times. Ch, ch, ch. It said, he then entered the master's room. Huineng entrusts the robe and bowl, those emblems handed down from Bodhidharma, entrusts them to Eno, but also tells him to leave the mountain and hide away for at least 10 years. Such will be the jealousy that comes after him if he stays within reach. It's said that Huineng himself takes Huineng across the river by boat, even rowing it himself. The next morning, when it becomes clear what has happened, there's an uproar in the monastery, and several monks take off after Eno to retrieve the robe and bowl. Monk Myo, once a general, takes the lead, and he finally catches up with Eno on Dayu Mountain. That's where the koan, case 23, begins. He's coming after him. He's pursuing him. He gets there and he reaches for the robe and bowl. And when he realizes that they're immovable, he can't lift them. Suddenly, he is laid open. I mean, that is ripe. Everything I thought is just called into question. I came for the Dharma, not the robe, please. And then comes this question. At the very moment you were chasing after me, without thinking good or evil, before any judgment, before knowing, that's the word to us. What was the primal face of Monk Myo? This is the question. What is your original face before your parents were born? That original spontaneity, that fact. In an instant, Myo got it. He's sweating, he's crying, and then he says, besides the secret words and secret meaning you've just revealed to me, is there anything else deeper yet? That shred of doubt. We saw it in Ananda. Did the world honored one transmit anything else to you? Something, is there anything else, anything more? What I have now preached to you is no secret at all. If you reflect on your own face, the secret will be found within yourself. What about your original face? Your own true face. No secret at all. So intimate. possibly hidden to our eyes, yet fully exposed moment to moment. And what is that sifting? Hongren acknowledges that ch, ch, ch. Sitting here, listening, standing, walking, laughing, crying. Just that. Eye to eye. One eye. What about the clear mirror, the face of our practice? The mirror that reflects each and everything exactly as it is. Dogen writes, know that the clear mirror Huineng spoke of is from the beginning, there is not a single thing. In what place can there be dust? The clear mirror with no stand is the life vein. Investigate it. Everything that is clear is the clear mirror. So it is said, writes Dogen, when brightness comes, meet it with brightness. How can there be dust anywhere? So it is nowhere. Furthermore, in the entire world of the 10 directions, is there any dust that is not the mirror? How can dust that is not the mirror stay on the mirror? Know that the whole world is not the dusty world, but is the face of the old mirror. The dust, the mirror, the face, your face. Is there any dust that is not the mirror? What tugs at the heart is our sense of lack, of something missing, or of some defilement. Look into that, see through that. Is there any dust that is not the mirror, including whatever you put there? No matter where we are in our practice, no matter what you bring, that's it. Complete, undefiled, inseparable, and intrinsically empty. The clear mirror. How could it be anything but you? Cannot fall out of it. Know that the whole world is not the dusty world, Dogen says, but is the face of the old mirror. No front or back, no inside, outside, no near or far. This dusty world. There is no other emptiness than this. As Huineng put it, originally, there is not a single thing. So where could dust alight? Even a speck of dust is it. All of it. Dogen has a lot to say about the clear mirror. or with a still deeper nuance, the old mirror. He actually has a whole chapter in the Shobogenzo, old mirror. Here's just a bit. What all Buddhas and ancestors have maintained and transmitted, person to person, is an old mirror. This is one seeing, one face, one image, one casting of the bronze mirror, one making of the mirror, one practice and one realization. When a barbarian comes, a barbarian appears in 18,000 forms. When a Chinese person comes, a Chinese person appears in myriad years in one moment. Myriad years in one moment. This. When the old comes, the old appears. When the new comes, the new appears. When a Buddha comes, a Buddha appears. When an ancestor comes, an ancestor appears. Each thing, singular, complete, in myriads of forms, tens of thousands of forms, timeless, boundless, unobscured. Just as it is. Just as it is. Complete exposure. And yet, we need to practice. Actually, even the clearer we see, the more we just are launched onto the cushion. We need to practice. No wonder the senior monk's verse comes down to us alongside Huineng's expression of the great, empty freedom of awakening. This practice, awakening. This one thing. The body is the Bodhi tree, the vehicle for practice. Mind, like a clear mirror. How well we know that dust can cling, can block our vision. So we sit in stillness, in trust, letting the dust settle, continually returning to the here and now. Right now, where there really is not a speck of dust, nothing to cling to, a freedom before and beyond knowing. Back in late December, at the beginning of Henry's sabbatical, Johanna asked how I would like to name the retreats in January and February. The calendar made it easy. A New Year's intro retreat. The January 4-day retreat, Encounter of the Heart. A basic translation of the Japanese word sesshin. Also rendered meeting the heart mind, gathering the heart, or governing the heart mind. That's what we're doing here. Then the Valentine's intro retreat, a love letter to yourself and the world. Again, what this is. You could say an act of love, but there's just this one thing. No, no one doing it. And now, with the full moon rising on Saturday, full moon, clear mirror. The title seemed wide and generative. There's so much in this tradition that calls up the image of the moon in the mirror, empty, luminous, the subtle shining of darkness and light. And the mirror, perfectly clear, reflecting each thing just as it is. Our practice of earnestly, endlessly polishing away the dust. Full moon, clear mirror. Yet to see where it will take us. The full moon in February is called the snow moon. Little did we know when this title went up on the mountain cloud calendar that an Arctic storm would have visited this country with snow and cold that blew right through our assumptions about weather patterns and nearly collapsed the electrical grid in Texas. You probably know by now that the grid in Texas is independent, cut off from the rest of the country in order to be deregulated. The company that manages it said the grid came close to collapsing for months. Total failure, they speculated, for 4 months. More than 60 people died, mostly from hypothermia or exposure, and millions still have no water. I did a Q&A for a small but mighty Sangha, beloved group, Tuesday night, and someone asked about, what do you mean to sit for the whole world? Yeah, it's a big question, but this is a prime example. Our hearts go out. So the snow moon. A couple of days ago, able again to connect by internet, a student from West Texas recited from memory a poem by Dogen. It's a poem that struck a chord for this student some years ago, but the storm had brought it up in a new way, like freshly fallen snow. I'd like to read it. This is in a translation by Kaz Tanahashi, just 4 lines. By Dogen. Snow. All my life, false and real, right and wrong tangled, like for Monk Myo. Playing with the moon, ridiculing wind, listening to birds. Many years wasted seeing the mountain covered with snow. This winter, I suddenly realize snow makes a mountain. I think that's poetry for snow mountain. One fact. The student went on to describe, in a very moving way, a wooden shed, a simple wooden shed, likely used to store hay, that sits in an open field beside the highway that runs west to Lubbock, way out in West Texas, a highway the student often traveled. The shed's beauty constantly changing, capturing the light and capturing the student in some way each time it was passed by. The student had tried to pull over, to get out of the car for a closer look, but the wind in West Texas and the traffic whooshing by on that 4-lane divided highway. Should I go there with my art supplies, stake out a place in the field and try to capture this beauty? Or should I just let it be, let it go? Last time the student drove by, the quick glimpse of the shed was suddenly as if it entered their body. No near, no far, just whew. Drove on. Back home, marveling at the fleeting lightning flash of experience, still wondering, should I go there or not? Then suddenly, seeing through that right or wrong, suddenly, before any condition, the shed captured the student. I am the shed. All my life, false and real, right and wrong tangled, playing with the moon, ridiculing wind, listening to birds. Many years wasted seeing the mountain covered with snow. This winter, I suddenly realize snow makes a mountain. Just a quick note that Kaz Tanahashi apparently translated, published Moon in a Dewdrop so that he could translate this poem. And with it, he has a series of paintings called Snow Inside. This winter, I suddenly realize snow makes a mountain. Huineng tells the awakened but still doubting monk Myo, what I have preached to you now is no secret at all. If you reflect on your own true face, the secret will be found within yourself. Let's take this to heart and continue our practice. Thank you.